Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the My Reader Minutes. For all that are new here, welcome to my channel. To all of my new subscribers, thank you for joining me on my journey. As you all know that have been following me recently within the last week or so, I've been really excited about the Real Housewives of Atlanta coming back to our screen. Yes, so I'm excited about what this season may bring. Now, this first episode basically was just introducing the newbies, the girls, and reintroducing the OGs because it has been at least 3 years since I think they have been aired, right? I want to say it's 3 years, two, if not two, almost three. Um, so let's get into it, okay? Well, it starts off, and I just wrote down a few notes here so I could keep track of all the newbies because I don't know everybody. But it first comes on with, and it's like a prelude to the episode. Anyway, she's got different things in the background, her and Pilar, her and Simon. It's like her life is being flashed before her eyes type thing. I like the cinematic production of it actually. It was kind of cute. But Portia comes on in her in her confession. And they say, Portia, we missed you. And she says, yes, I'm back. Life has been amazing. She says she's been traveling and Pilar's been getting big. But then she goes into how life doesn't always end in a fairy tale and goes into this song and dance about why she filed for divorce and how I guess her and Simon had trust issues and they were having financial issues. And they go back into some footage, I guess, of her talking to her sister and her mom, and she says she really doesn't know who she married. Who she married wasn't real. I have some questions. I have some questions because the only reason why I have some questions is because what do you mean he wasn't real? Um, you met him. We'll get to that later about how she met him and all that kind of stuff. We don't really know how they met. Rumor mill has one way they met. We actually saw how we thought they met on this show a couple of years ago, which I don't think is when they met. I think the rumor says they knew each other before her, Tanya, and her sister went to Fallon's house. Just saying, it's a rumor. Don't know how true it is. She says that people are saying basically what she's going through is her karma. However, she doesn't think that that's the case. If anything, it's probably if there's such thing as good karma, that's what she's getting because she always lands on top. Sterling Hall is the home of Shamia. Now I don't know what Shamia's last name is, and I'm trying to see if I can find it. And I did find it, and I couldn't pronounce it, so we're just gonna say Shamia. As we arrive at Sterling Hall, Shamia's castle, because that's what this looks like. They give us a glimpse through her home before she arrives. Baby grands. Is that a baby grand? I don't know. But she has baby grands and pianos and stuff. I don't know where this is. This is like a bar area, a little entertainment. Every room has a probably a 100-inch TV. This is gorgeous. This is a gorgeous home. I think that's the kitchen. So we are introduced to Shamia as she arrives at her home. She comes in and she comes in singing to her baby girl. And she basically starts out with people know her as Portia's ride or die. However, it's more to her than meets the eye. She says she can outshine the best of them, and she can. As she comes in, she's singing Shyla or Shia or whatever her name is. And she says, she jumps into her mommy's arms and she was like, "Oh, hi." She said, "What are we doing today?" She said, "How many kisses can I give you today?" She said, 50,000. And she was like, "Okay, that's going to be a while. So let's get to it." So she starts kissing. I think that was so cute. It was so cute. Um, as she's, sorry, as she's walking through her house, she's letting us know that her house was the second largest sale the year that she bought the $9 million home. Um, Her family was there, and she had kind of, she walks through the house with dad, her mom, her sister, cousins, and things. They're all sitting there eating, actually, because it's her birthday, and they're there for the big shindig, the big birthday party. She tells us that she has, since she's been in her home, she hasn't had a party. So this will be the first party that she's had in her house. So as she's sitting there, she goes into the background of herself and she basically lets us know that, and she calls herself the female Jamie Foxx, where she considers herself a quadruple threat. So she says she is a actress, a singer, a dancer, and a host. We see her beautiful home as she walks to the elevator to go see her baby girl, Shiloh. The girl got elevated. Well, anyway, she's playing a game with her daughter, and her daughter's going to go up the steps and she's going to take the elevator, and they're racing to see who gets there first. So obviously, this elevator isn't that fast because the little girl beat her upstairs. But anywho, they're on their way to see Shiloh. Shiloh is 15 months. She was born premature, and I want to say that, for what I can recollect, she used a surrogate for her. I think the same surrogate as Candy Burris used for Blaze. And because the surrogate was having some medical issues, I think she had breast cancer. I think they announced. Um, she had to be delivered early. So with that, I want to say she's a little delayed. She's had multiple surgeries, and she's come through fine. I mean, she's very proud of her recovery periods, and she seems to be doing well. Um, she goes into well, she brings her downstairs. Actually, she brings the baby downstairs to her mom, and holds her for a little while. But she says, "I want to get comfortable. Do you mind holding her?" So then we see she's off onto the another part of her house, actually going to get on another elevator. And this elevator is taking her to the department store she calls a closet. Wow. Now, I'm wondering if the one elevator goes to her dressing room and the elevator goes to his dressing room, or does one elevator go? No, I think it goes up, probably goes up and down. But one must go to his and the other go to hers. That's crazy, right? That's crazy rich. I know that's right. Oh my goodness. As she's walking through her department store, I mean her closet, she tells us how long she's been with her husband. She said they've been together for 10 years. She goes through this story about how they met, um, and how they met at this bar. I can't remember the bar, but um, she says she remembers how, and they tell her to try to wrap it up. And, 5 minutes later, she's still talking about it. But she says she remembers that she left her car at Phipps. I think that's at Lenox Mall. Her purse was still in there. Um, she said they had a ball that night. He came over, sat with her, bought her a drink. I think she goes back to his home. She was a little leery about going back to his home because she said, I think you just want to have, sex with me. He was like, no, I'm not going to touch you. He said, I'm going to sleep here. And she said about 4 o'clock in the morning, her her stomach started to rumble and she had to go to the bathroom. He told her, you can use that bathroom right there. So she goes into the bathroom. She said it's like a symphony orchestra. It's like, oh. Anyway, she said she tore that man's bathroom up. And she said she probably didn't think she was going to hear from him anymore based on her bathroom issues. But she said he called her, for another date, and she said they haven't left each other's side since. And she said, "That's what you do, girls. You go and you mark your territory." I thought that was so funny. She said, "You go and you mark your territory." She said, "That man loved me." She said, "The next time I came to his house, he had wipes." Shamia is funny though. Oh my gosh, she's so funny. She seems like she's so personable. I don't know. She doesn't give you rich, wealthy. She's very humble, very down to earth, and she's not into all of the airs. I love her personality. Oh my God, I love it. I feel like Portia is a fun girl, but there's a part of her that is kind of snooty, where she could probably let her hair down and be fun and get down with the best of them. She's kind of snooty. That's why I don't think God has blessed her yet with what she feels as though she deserves. Anywho, that's my personal opinion. Don't mind me. Um, so as she tells us about the story about how they met. His name is Gerald. I didn't remember his last name. I seen his last name. I didn't remember his first name. Um, she shares that that they've been together for 10 years. Then she moves on to how she's connected with the ladies on the show. Now, of course, her first one, she tells us that how she knows Portia. Her and Portia grew up together. And she said through Portia, she's met Kenya and Cynthia. And she's known them for a decade as well. She says she met Kelly through her radio show. And her and Kelly became real close. She said, because Kelly offered to cook for her when she was, I guess when she first had her Shiloh. And she just made up in her mind that this girl's gonna be my friend. So she offered to cook for her. And she said, and Brittany Edie is friends with Kelly. And Kelly, and she said and then I think she said she met. But then I think she said she met, even though Kelly and Brittany were friends, she said she met Brittany through another acquaintance some time ago. So she kind of knew her too. She said how she knew Drew. She said her and Drew did a movie together. This is a TLC movie. I think Drew played T-Boz. And I want to say that she played um Dallas Austin's um love interest on there. She was his side piece or something. Anyway, but Drew knows Angela Oakley. And she says she doesn't know Angela too tough, but she knows her husband, Charles. She says she knew Charles from hosting the different events um around Atlanta, different sport events around Atlanta. Because she says she hosted a lot of all-star games. So then we arrived to Drew's house. Drew is outside playing with her kids. So Drew says, "Y'all, I'll be right back. I'm going to get some water." She leaves him outside. So she's sitting there talking to her chef. Now, Drew always got a chef and assistants and all that kind of stuff. She must got some money. Somebody got some money. And she starts talking to the chef about Ralph and the divorce and talking about how it's really been, you know, agony going through that. But meanwhile, while she's talking to the chef, guess who arrives? Brooklyn, little Brooklyn in Kenya. Brooklyn is so cute, y'all. But I guess Brooklyn comes for play date with Drew's daughter. So Kenya arrives and they greet each other with the pleasantries. And then Drew gives Kenya a tour of her home. She goes upstairs and there's a room that used to be his office, but I think it's her glam room now. And she talks about, well, where's Ralph? And he was like, well, they went to court and he has to be in the basement and he has his own separate entrance and everything. And Kenya said he was banished to the basement. He was like, pretty much. She said, and I'm not allowed to go down there unless it's approved. She said, but and then she said something about she has to leave her house on the first, third, and fifth weekend of a month. I don't know what kind of stuff this is. Anyway, that as they're being fed, hold on a minute, wait a minute. So they're sitting down eating, and um Kenya, I think, asked something about, well, y'all don't communicate or whatever. She says we don't. She said we communicate, but we have to communicate. We communicate through an app, which is monitored by the judge. And she said Ralph likes to be petty in the app and say all kind of stuff. She said, but she just keeps it positive or whatever. She says even though she'd like to send a middle finger emoji or whatever, she says she keeps it on the up and up and let the judge see all the things that are being sent through the app. She said, well, so Kenya asks Drew, what have you been up to? So Drew says, well, I've done 5 movies this year. And she says she's been asked to open for Tank in Chicago. And Kenya's like, oh, I love Chicago. She said, you knew I grew up in Detroit. She said, oh, yeah. She's like, my partner Dennis is from Detroit. And Kenya, my partner in music. And Kenya's like, Dennis who? She said, Portia's Dennis? And she said, how does Portia feel about this? And I don't know. She gave some song and dance about how um Portia was okay with it. She said, according to Dennis, because Dennis was the one that told her. She said, I feel like if Portia had an issue with it, she wouldn't be quiet about it. And Kenya's looking at her like, Because, Drew can lie too. Drew, has got some lie. She got some Mia blood in her. I don't know. Talk about Mia from Potomac. Anywho, so Kenya was like, well, why is Dennis helping you with your music? Why didn't he help um Portia when she was putting stuff out there? And they go back into the archives, and I remember vaguely that she did have a song called Flatline. And I don't remember how it did, if it did anything. I don't think it got off the ground, but I do remember this somewhat. And it wasn't until they brought it back up that I said, oh yeah, she did have something going on. But yeah. So Kenya said, well, why didn't he help her? I mean, since you said it was his passion. And Drew said, well, I don't know how long it has been his passion. Kenya says, oh. Drew. So then we go to the Dirty Tea. The Dirty Tea is a restaurant where Kelly is throwing a birthday party for her 17-year-old, Chloe. And their theme is a tea party. And they show all the different teapots and teacups and the different designs on them to give you the ambiance of the restaurant. And look at each table. Each table has a different design. So she goes on to explain, gives us a little bit of her background. Now, Kelly says that she has 4 kids, a 17-year-old, Chloe, Chance is 11, and then she has 2 twin daughters, Chastity and Chelsea. I don't remember. I don't remember the 2 8-year-olds. They're twins though. And Chloe Chloe gets up and makes a wish, and she wishes for a pink Birkin. so so Kelly gives us a little background on herself. She was originally from Baltimore. She moved from Baltimore to Atlanta. She's been going through a divorce for 2 years. She's hoped to be divorced in 2 months. Um, Mark, who is her estranged husband, is the father of 3 of her kids. She said they had to separate because the environment became unsafe, where police had to be called, and that's where she's gonna leave it. Um, she has a restaurant that she opens, called Nana's. She's named it after her grandmother. She has her own waffle mix. She has her own waffle mix. She has 24 karat magic maple syrup. I think she said that was highlighted in Forbes magazine. Um, and she has a cookbook. So she's basically saying that the girls can't see their father right now. I think he must have threatened her or something. Anyway, whatever he did, the courts made the decision that the girls are not allowed to see him. So I don't know what happened. She didn't go into any detail of what that was about, but she said it breaks her heart. She said because her 11-year-old Chance was crying uncontrollably, I guess because she wanted to see her father. Um, so for her daughter Chloe, she gave her 17 gifts because it was her 17th birthday. And I guess Chloe's thing right at the moment are purses. So she bought her all these different types of purses. She said her first Chanel bag. I think that was a Bahrain bag. It was a cute idea. It was cute. That was really a cute purse. So cute. Her Prada purse. So the next thing we go into Portia. We follow Portia back to Randy Kessler's office, the same lawyer she used for Cordell's divorce. As she's walking through, they show her walking through the doors in 2013, the same as she walked through them in 2024. This time she says she was smarter. She said she was smarter by getting a prenup. She said when she was married to Cordell, she left with practically nothing. Just the stuff that she had on her back. And he put her out the house. So that's her whole fight about. She's got a little bit of the fact that she wants to be like Shamia. At the same token, she don't want to relive that pain like she did back when she was with Cordell. But she said that she had to file for divorce in order to protect her assets. She said Simon wouldn't let her know what their finances were. Um, she said she didn't want to go chance a foreclosure notice coming to the house and she not able to contribute or help pay for their stuff. So she said, so you have to file to protect. She had to file to protect her assets, and she said, and the prenup, the only way that it's enforced is if you file for divorce. She said that they both have 50-50 interest in the house, marital property. Um, I'm trying to figure out how they have 50% interest. Now, I don't guess I know the all the laws and everything, how that pertains to marital property in Georgia, but I was under the impression that you had to be married and then acquire the property afterwards in order to have 50-50 marital property. Because even if he purchased it, even she wasn't married to him long enough to even say that she was entitled to get the house. At least that's how it is where I am in the DMV area. I'm not sure what it is in Georgia. So maybe she knows what she's talking about. But I feel like it was strategic on Simon's part to purchase the house before he married her because he kind of probably knew that she wasn't on the up and up and why she was with him. I don't know. We'll see. Anywho, she says Simon has since then sent a cease and desist so that she can't film in the house. And that's how she makes her money. Being that she signed on to do RHOA, ROHA again, that's how she makes her money because they have to film in the house. She does her Amazon stuff in the house. And the cease and desist is conflicting with how she is able to earn a living. Now, sidebar. I remember when this all happened, and I remember there was something in there where in their prenup that said that he would continue to pay for the house because remember when they got married, she quit all her jobs. She quit doing everything. RHOA, Amazon, everything. She didn't do anything. I guess it was one of the stipulations. She didn't want to work or whatever. Anywho, while if she wasn't working, then he would continue to pay for all of the stuff in the house if it came to the point where they had to split. But it seems like it seems like Portia put something in motion where she filed for divorce. Then she went and signed a deal with RHOA. But I think she signed a deal with RHOA thinking that she was going to be Guabadia because when the promos came out, she was like, look who's back. It's Portia Williams or is it Guabadia? She was claiming the name. So that had to be before she decided to divorce him. I don't know. The timeline ain't timelining. So I don't know what it is. But anyway, she said a lot of things started to come out. That was part of the reason why she filed because she wanted to protect the assets. She said she would ask them questions like, why were they standing in the secondary line at the airport? Can somebody tell me what the secondary line is? And if I'm standing in it already and I just don't know I'm standing in the secondary line, because I don't know what the secondary line is. What is the secondary line? I'm assuming that's not the line because my girlfriend has it where she can just go right through. And that's because she travels a lot of travels internationally a lot. So she's gotten to the point where you only have to get checked in or something to that effect, and they just walk right through. And I'm assuming that's what it's about. Because Simon doesn't have citizenship here or his green card ain't right or something, then he has to go through all of these avenues. Anyway, he didn't disclose that to Portia. So I guess if they're couple, because another sidebar, she was on Watch What's Happening Live, and she said that Shamia and her husband Gerald were their couple. So it was they all hung out together. And Andy even asked her. He said, "Did Shamia's husband know him?" And she was like, "Yeah, they knew each other." And he was like, "Wasn't any red flags for him?" And he said, "Yeah, with some red flags." But I mean, I think a lot of people told her there were red flags, except for Diane and herself. Because Diane looked at this, Portia looked at this. They also looked at where Shamia was. And that's where, I'm sorry, it all goes back to she's trying to keep up with Shamia. I'm sorry. I don't mean to beat a dead object. I don't want to say a dead anything, but I don't want to mean to be pummeling this into the ground. But it is what it is. What else could it have been? You were that pressed that you almost, and now this is what you're going through because you were that pressed to have someone supposedly take care of you because you wanted to be a cat woman. Anyway, um, so she said all this stuff was coming out about his green card not being valid, about how him not being able to obtain a citizenship, and she said, that's why she had to do what she had to do, and in order to enforce the prenup, you had to file for divorce. So that was her reasoning for filing. Then she got real sentimental and she was like, acting like she really loved Simon. But I don't know. I don't know if she really loved him. I guess she wanted us to feel some type of sympathy for her because then she started bawling in the lawyer's office. I don't know if I believe all that. But anyway, the next one, the next scene you see Shamia arrive at this place. She's meeting Kelly and Brittany. Brittany arrives first. And then they give a little background on Brittany. And Brittany's talking about how she's married. She shows Shamia her ring, her new ring, because she went from a 7.5 carat to now a 10 carat diamond ring, solitaire. This is her husband. Um, yeah. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm gonna refrain. Then Kelly joins the group and they're all taking shots. And they told Shamia to get a double shot because it's her birthday. And then she lets them know that she's having a birthday party and they want to know who's coming. So she shares that her BFF is coming and that Portia and Shamia goes and she lets them know that she's going through a divorce. And she said, "You probably already know because it's pretty public." And Brittany says, "Yeah," she says, "but I hope," she says, "I know she's gonna come up on top for sure." And Kelly basically says, "Well, maybe she shouldn't have stolen that lady's man." And Shamia pretty much says, "Well, Simon and his ex were very public about their split." She said, "I don't think it was any crossover." And Kelly was like, "Well, it was a little suspect on how that went down." And she said, "There's a little gray area." So they kind of like posted up like the dates of their split and the dates that um and also with the dates of when Simon and Portia got engaged. So it was like a month there, like you knew that man in a month. So if they split in April and you were engaged May 10th, you only needed 3 weeks to realize that that wasn't the man, that's now the man that wasn't real. I don't understand. Come on now. Help me out. Help me out. Help me out. Kelly wasn't buying it. Her thing was it looked a little sus when you go over a man's house and then you end up marrying the man. And then they go back to the footage of her, Tanya, and her sister In 2020, meeting supposedly Simon for the first time. So Shamia basically said that when they split, Portia did reach out to both of them and asked them how they were, making out or whatever. And Britt made a comment saying, "Well, I don't know if I would have reached out to the husband. I might have reached out to her, but not nobody's husband." So in Shamia's confessional, she says that her and Portia's been friends since they were children, so she feels kind of obligated to have her back. So Shamia goes on and talks about how Drew was invited, and she invited Drew, she invited Kenya. No, she said, "I invited Kenya, I invited Drew, and I invited Ralph because I didn't know what was going on with them." So Britt speaks up and basically says that she had heard that Dennis and Drew were dating. So Shamia's like, "Well, I did hear that they were working together." So if you heard that they were working together, why you got air quotes? Because that means usually that's not true, right? And then she said that she had heard that they were at a nightclub together, and someone told her that they were holding hands. So Kelly, so Kelly said she had posted this picture of her on her Instagram, and she said Dennis was in her DMs talking about, "I can't believe you have 4 children. Oh, OMG." And so Shamia said, "Well, did you respond?" She was like, "No, I didn't respond." So Britt said, "No, don't nobody want to see his hot dogs." She said, "I went out on a date with Dennis one time." And Shamia's like, "Oh, girl." She said, "I did." She said, "It was a long, long time ago. It was the first date." And she said, "And he bought me a diamond necklace on the first date." And so Shamia's like, "Oh, you was that girl back then in the day then." She was like, "I was that video vixen. I was in all the men magazines, the black magazines as in high school. I was," she said, what did she say? She was that girl back in high school or something. Something to that effect. It didn't even make sense. But anyway, that's what she said. Next, Portia and Shamia meet up at the strip club. Shamia tells her that Simon had texted her, congratulating her on getting a peach and their new home. And she said, "Hey, bro." She said, "It's supposed to have been all of us, blah, 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 blah." She said, "I really feel like he's reaching out to people that are attached to you." And Portia said, "I don't know why you calling him bro. He's not a bro. He's just Simon." So Shamia's like, "Okay." And so she says she met up with Kelly and Brittany. And she said, and Kelly asked why you took that lady's husband. And Portia said she had that type of energy already right off the rip. And she said, "Yeah." She said, and I told her, that you need to get to know Portia. And Portia said, "No, I don't need to get to know her. Not with that type of energy. I already know. I don't need to get to know her. She don't even know me." So Shamia says, "Act like you're nursing. Don't drink too much." She was like, "No." She said, "I want to get more." She said, "Some more tea coming." She said, "More tea?" She said, "Yeah." She said, "They also talked to me about Drew and Dennis and how they went out to a club." And Portia said, for her birthday, right? And Shamia's like, like she didn't even know what to say. So Portia was like, "Oh," she said, "Is my jaw on the floor?" She said, "I gotta pick up my jaw." Like, she's like, "What?" And then in Portia's confessional, she said Drew has crossed the line, sneaking behind her back with her baby's daddy. pot meet kettle. How the world she gonna say Drew crossed the line? Considering Dennis is a single man. Dennis is single, right? But she didn't cross the line by going ahead and getting engaged. Let's even say it was a month after they split. After getting engaged, 3 weeks after meeting someone's husband, and they weren't divorced, but Drew is out of line. Somebody explain that to me, because I don't know. I'm not feeling it. Come on, Portia. Anyway, so so the next day is, I think it's actually the day of Shamia's party. She's got acrobats outside. She got fire throwers. She got all this stuff going on, all this activity going on in the backyard. And the first one to show up early, because she asked her to show up early, was Kelly, because she wanted to talk to her about the whole conversation about Portia. So Shamia sits down with Kelly and says, I really felt uncomfortable about the conversation at the restaurant. Portia's my best friend. And she said, if you have any questions about Portia, ask Portia. She said, I'm your friend. I'm Portia's friend. And she said, I want y'all to get along. She said, but if y'all don't see that y'all can get along, she said, I don't want to be in the middle of it. So Kelly was like, oh, of course. Well, I didn't mean to make you feel uncomfortable. That wasn't my intent. She said, I've been through a divorce. I know what being cheated on feels like. And she said, that's why I was passionate about what I said. So Shamia says, well, that makes sense why you went so hard about the whole situation with Simon and Portia, whatever. So she said, I understand. Thanks for explaining that to me. She said, of course. She said, I'm here to celebrate you today. She said, that's what we're here to do. So let's do that. Portia. So Portia is getting her glam done. And while she's getting her glam done, Cynthia calls her. And at the same time, Cynthia's getting her glam done. And so Cynthia is talking about, she was sorry to hear about her and Simon. She wanted to offer support. And Portia, thanked her for reaching out to her. She was like, she was hoping that she would have a trip to Nigeria. And she was like, we can still go to Nigeria. She said, I got family over there now. She was like, I'm 44% Nigerian. So she asked the lady that was doing her makeup, what was her tribe. And she told her something. She said, yeah, that's mine too. See, we really sisters and all that kind of stuff. So Cynthia asked Portia, she said, have you heard from Drew? Because I heard she was going through a divorce too. And she said, no, I haven't heard from Drew. She said, but I heard she's had a great, Dennis has been a great support system for her. And Cynthia's like, wait, what? She's like, wait, what? How did that even happen? How her and Dennis get so close? And so her mom was in the room with her, and Cynthia's face must have been like this close to the FaceTime selfie camera. And she said, look, Mom, she said, Cynthia done got all close to the phone talking about how that happened. After Kelly arrives early and Shamia has their conversation, Cynthia Bailey comes. She arrives. And her and Kelly talk. Charles, Oakley, and Angela arrive. Kelly explains to Cynthia how she had an uncomfortable conversation with Shamia about Portia and why she, stole that lady's husband. And so in Cynthia's confessional, she's like, well, if coming in hot was a person, it'd be Kelly. So Cynthia goes back and says, well, okay. She said, well, Portia ain't shy. And Kelly said, I'm not either. So Cynthia says, okay, okay then. All right, whatever you decide to do then, girl. Britt and Mike come in the house. I see she's got the same shoes on as Drew did in her confessional. They all hook up in the kitchen. There's Angela and Charles Oakley. He's the NBA star, legend, or whatever. And then they have Britt and her husband, Mike. And they all meet in the kitchen. Kelly comes in the kitchen. She joins them. And she looks around and she was like, hey, everyone. She was like, oh. And then she realizes that Shamia had her cookbook on her counter. So she makes a vow. She says, all my girls are going to have cookbooks and I want them on the kitchen counters in your kitchens or something like that. Something. Then they talk about cooking. And then Angela makes a comment about how Charles doesn't like her cooking or won't eat her cooking or something like that. And then she says something about put some respect on my husband's name. And she said, ain't that right, honey? And he was like, they don't have to. Child, he don't even want to be there. Drew arrives and immediately, I guess it's not raining as much because evidently they're outside. And she approaches the girl. She approaches Cynthia, gives her a hug. And she addresses all of the ladies. She hugs Brittany, says she's beautiful. She hugs Kelly, says, I've had your waffles. They were good, blah, 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 blah. And then she acknowledges Angela because Angela and her go to the same hairstylist. So they asked Drew how she was doing and how was her and Ralph. And, I think she discloses that, they're still going through divorce. And I think Brittany asks her, so are y'all publicly dating? Here we come with the shade. Are y'all publicly dating? And she says, well, I think I want to. So Drew says, I think I want to, put this to rest first before I start any dating or whatever. Meanwhile, Charles Oakley says, you might want to go to the restroom and check out your wig. Because for some reason, it must have been hot that day or she was sweating in the wig. Anyway, her glue was coming off, so she had to go fix it. He said, yeah, you might want to check that out. Meanwhile, Portia's still getting her glam done. It's 6:15. She's supposed to be at the party with everybody else. So the next one to walk up is Kenya. Kenya walks up. She hugs Cynthia. And she's like, hi, how's everyone doing? And I noticed in the conversation when she comes up, she says hi to everyone. And I guess because she didn't really give a warm greeting to Britt took offense to it. And you could tell by her facial expression. Because, Kenya's she could be real short with you. I mean, she was pleasant, but she just was like, hi, hi. And then she just starts looking around. She says, where's the lady of the hour? Like, she doesn't really need to, she knew that they were the new girls, but I guess she just didn't want to, she didn't know them. She don't know them. So you could see that Britt was trying to engage in conversation with her. And so Britt all of a sudden says, oh, well, everybody, so I think Drew asked Kenya about her divorce, and she said it wasn't final yet. So she was like, so Britt pops up and says, oh, you're going through a divorce? You're going through a divorce? You've been divorced? She's going through divorce, and she was like the only one standing there that was still married. So Kenya says, oh, well, you're married? Are you engaged or whatever? She was like, no, I'm married. This is my second ring. So Kenya was like, your second ring from your second husband, your second marriage? No, same husband. This is my anniversary ring. She said, oh, it's an anniversary ring to the first ring. And so I guess Kenya was being a little shady about it, right? And Britt was not feeling it. She was like, no, there's my husband over there. Hey, honey. She said, I was his insurance agent. And she's so Kenya gonna say, well, I guess you were being more than a good neighbor. So Britt says, well, he knew he was in good hands, so he never left or whatever. So Britt took to her confessional and said, it's not really nice to go after somebody's ring when you don't have one. Okay, girl. So then here comes the lady of the hour. She comes down in her royal blue and she twerks coming down the steps. She got the shot o'clock ladies walking around with signs, passing out shots to everyone. She shouts out her husband for throwing us together and being the love of her life. She comes over to where the girls are and they want to know where Portia is, or she asks where Portia is, and Portia's not there yet. So she basically says, "We need some drinks." Britt Edie is over there fuming about Kenya. She made a comment to her husband, and her husband is just looking straight ahead. He don't say nothing. But Britt Edie is feeling some way about Kenya making a comment about her ring. So as they go inside, I think they sit down for she sits down for a split second, and then someone comes to Shami and says, "Your husband wants to see you outside." They go outside, they unveil her car. Of course, he gives her a Rolls Royce something. I forgot what it's called. Let me see. What is it called? A Rolls Royce Cullinan. I think that's how you pronounce it. Anyway, it's a $430,000 car. And they said everybody wants one of these. I don't think so. I mean, I'm sure it's a nice car, and if I've ever ridden in one, um, I probably would like it. But you know what? I did see a Rolls Royce on the Tyler Perry thing on Beauty in the Black. It was a coupe. And I think I like the coupe in the Rolls Royce. If I had to get one, if I had some, and I'm sure the coupe costs more than this, maybe. I don't know, I have to look it up. But if I had that kind of money laying around and I, didn't want for anything and I felt like that's what I needed, I would have picked the coupe over this one. So I don't really like this one. This looks like a man's car to me. And that's my personal opinion. But whatever. I can't afford that anyway. So ain't no need me talking about it. Shami is excited. She hugs her husband. She's happy girl. I am all up for Shamia and getting whatever her little heart desires. She deserves it. She is a sweetheart. She's excited. She's twerking on the car. Cynthia goes to her confessional and saying, if I had had birthday gifts like that, she said, I would have made more of a effort to keep my marriages together. 2 hours later, here comes her BFF trying to steal the spotlight. Kelly's like, yeah, my BFF showed up hours late. You better get over here on this side and act like you've been in the crowd and I ain't see you behind. Everybody peeps Portia. And Shamia peeps her too. I don't know why she feels obligated to her, but she peeps her too. So her and Gerald are in the car and Portia says, you're not going anywhere, are you? And Shamia says, we might. She said, you're late. And she knew, and she said it with a smile, but Portia knew that she was mad with her. So Portia walks in with Shamia. She apologizes for being late. And Shamia said, well, you know what I can do about it now. So she helps her get dressed. She said, I'm sorry. And she did apologize, and it felt sincere. But while they were up there, she was helping her get into her second outfit. Cynthia and Kenya are downstairs talking, and Cynthia shares with her a conversation she had with Kelly about her asking about Portia and the whole Simon Fallon situation. And that daggone Kenya says, hide your wife, hide your husbands. And Cynthia didn't think it was funny. She was like, okay. She said, I'm just joking. She says, I know. She said, but Kelly was upset that Shamia went back to Portia and told her. So she was like, well, why was Kelly upset about it? She was like, I don't know. Cynthia said, well, it was a thing. She said, it seems like in this group, anything that's a thing, even if it isn't a thing, becomes a thing. So Shamia comes down in her second outfit with her BFF. They all take pictures. Britt goes over to Kenya and says, Kenya, I have a problem. She said, you didn't hug me when you greeted like you hugged everybody else when you came in. And Kenya's like, what are you talking about? She was like, who did I hug? Cynthia? She said, Cynthia's my best friend. She said, you over here. She said, come on over here. You starting stuff already. She said, we're starting stuff. So she brings the ladies over to the sofa and she wants to get more about what was going on between what Kelly had to talk about and what Shamia came and talked to her about. about the whole Portia thing. So Kelly again expressed the same thing, her sentiments about her having, coming for that lady's man while she stole that lady's husband. As she's talking, Portia walks over. Portia sits down and she comes right and look at messy Kenya. Kenya acting like she ain't in the conversation. But kid she's like, answer the question. So Portia's like, so aren't you trying to get to know me? Like, well, why wouldn't you ask me what's your last name? She said, I don't even know you. She said, is that your first question when you're trying to get to know somebody? And she's just and then Kelly's just like, just answer the question. I'm like, I think Kelly went a little hard, and maybe she was trying to get her claws out. I don't know, but I think she did go a little hard. I don't know if I would have approached Portia like that. I would have probably at least said hello to her first. Um, you know what I mean? It was kind of brutal how she came at her. Um, Portia goes to her confessional and says, "Is that your first line when you come to meet some people?" She said, "Wrong. Rewrite it. Rewrite your line. That ain't it." Angela was like, "I can't believe Kelly asked her that." She said, "But she then goes and says, they were trying to hear, it was getting kind of loud in there. So they moved to another part of Shamia's house and they all get on the elevator and they go to this other room. As they're walking towards the elevator, Drew must have said something to Portia, said, "Oh, she's harmless." And they all walk upstairs. I mean, they all take the elevator upstairs. So then Shamia says, Drew, they all sit down and they're all in that room or whatever. And Drew, they're all making over the room. Oh, this is beautiful. This is beautiful. Blah, 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 blah. And so Shamia comes out and says, Drew, I wasn't invited to your birthday party. And so Drew comes back and says, no one was invited to my birthday party. She says, no one was invited to my birthday party. She said, I gave my numbers to my assistant and he invited no one. So Portia said, well, I was invited by Dennis. And Drew looks at her like, she said, she said, and you didn't come. And she said, I was invited. And she said, and you didn't come. She said, yeah, Dennis invited me. And she was like, she said, well, I didn't know anything about it. She said, it was a surprise to me. And so I think somebody comes out and asks, I think Shamia asked her, she said, are you dating Dennis? And it goes off saying, and if Drew's looking at her like, no. But it goes off to be continued. So what y'all think about that? The first episode was pretty good. I understand they had to go through the whole gamut of introducing us to the new housewives. I think I'm gonna like Kelly. Portia needs a run for her money. I like Portia, but Portia can give it just like she can dish it. So I'm not worried about Portia. Portia can stand on her own. Britt has sensitive feelings, and so does Kenya. However, Britt may not be the mean girl that Kenya is, so she might want to leave Kenya alone. But she's already, they're already clashing, as you can see in this episode. Drew, like I said, it's got Mia blood in her, or she related to Mia, or she got the Mia syndrome or whatever. But I feel like Drew is lying. Based on Portia's Watch What Happened Live, she said Drew was the main one trying to get her to come back and film. And she said she was the first one she told that she was coming back. And she says, and when I get back, she said, this is their whack ass storyline that her and Dennis have for me. So she said her and Dennis co-parent, that's all they really do. She said, but, he doesn't really care who she sees, but she didn't think that they should have been this sneaky. She said, I don't know why she's saying that Drew was going behind her back to date a single man, even though that is her baby's daddy, she don't owe Portia nothing, and neither does Dennis, because they're not together, supposedly, right? But with the Go Naked Hair ordeal, since that is her business, she said Drew tried to do photo shoots with her Go Naked Hair because she was, promoting her brand. And she said she didn't particularly like that either. She said she needs to prove everything that goes through her brand. And I get that. That's 100%. That's her business. She can promote it how she wants. It ain't up to Drew to do that. But as far as Dennis, he can do what he wants, and so can Drew. Even though Drew, I think, is still married. I don't think they're divorced yet, but she can still do what she wants. She's separated, right? Now, I guess her and Ralph, even though they're separate, they're still living together. He's in the basement, she's upstairs. So pretty much she can date and do what she wants, since she has to leave the house the first, the third, and the fifth weekend of the month. So clearly he's doing what he wants to do too. That's what I'm thinking. So what y'all think about this episode? It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting, and I am looking forward to all the shenanigans. I am looking forward to all of the ambiance that Shamia can give us. Thanks for bringing her on. Bravo. I think even though we always knew who she was in the background, I'm glad y'all have brought her out in the forefront and given her own peach. Mind you, she is standing up like she is kind of the head BIC. Just saying. Anyway, y'all, please join me in the comments below. Tell me what you think. Please like and share, subscribe. Liking the channel is a free way to support. And until the next one, I will see y'all next week.